He is risen. He is risen indeed. Alleluia. And yet, hasn't it been a weird week? we we here on the Mosaic Ark have been away for a couple weeks, and we've had lots and lots and lots of adventures, but nothing like what started showing up on the internets this week after we celebrated the feast of our Lord's resurrection. And we are here. We are here. We're sorry we've been away so long, because obviously, if we ladies aren't here on the internet to track things, it all gets like super weird. So, welcome to the Mosaic Ark. Alleluia!
Hallelujah.
Alleluia! Alleluia! Man, Easter week, wild, eh?
Yes, it's a strange one.
So, did you have a good
Maybe
Easter? Did you have a good Easter?
I had
Is
a
it?
little bit too good of an Easter with
Uh,
all the good food, and some in my family got very sick from too much good food. So
that'll be a lesson. You can't when you're if
yeah,
you've been fasting properly or just
we have not.
moderating, but don't overfeast when it hits, because then you'll be
Oh
sad.
gosh, no, seriously, don't overfeast over 50. That's the rule here. I think now.
I
I
don't
think
I
I
I
think
can't
that's
even
it.
drink, right? It's like, you guys see me with my goblet online. This is like, wine and mainly water, because
Oh,
I have to have something to drink, and the wine, is pleasant, and we're hanging out and having a bit of chat, but you know, well, I found so I had this was fun. You guys know, in the credits to the Mosaic Ark, because you've watched them diligently every time you watch our videos, we show you the apps from St. John Cantius. And I I was tired enough from having been away over the weekend previous in Los Angeles getting my bronze medal in fencing.
nice. Congratulations again.
Yes,
That's
it's my
awesome.
second one this year in that age group, and I just aged up into the 60s. I'm a youngin in the set,
Nice.
right? And so I came. It's like that, and it's really nice, because I realized that these two bronzes that I've had, the January and April now, are the first medals I'd had in 8 years, 7 years, since 2018.
That's
Because
momentous.
yeah, because I'd competed through December 2019 had been the last national event, and then COVID hit, and everything got canceled. And then the USFA, the U.S. Fencing Association, put in all sorts of, you know, vaccine mandate proofs, and you have to wear a mask under your mask and stuff like that. And I was busy fighting, mandates on
Yeah.
campus. So I just was like, I can't do it everywhere. So I actually hadn't competed until I started practicing again in 2022, and I competed again in 2023. But this is like it's taken me a couple of years of getting back into the groove, because I've been last year I was sort of steadily showing up back in the middle of this pack again, right? So I was like, okay, but we're all pretty close together, because we've all been fencing each other for decades and decades. We're all old ladies, and that means, it's going to hang on one touch, or one or two touches.
Mhm.
It's not going to be it's going to the outcome is going to be hugely different, but the actual finishing, it can be, well, you hope it's tight anyway. So that's what I was doing the weekend of Palm Sunday, and then Easter weekend came, and I took advantage. This stream is not supposed to be about me, but you guys, you just have to know, and you also have to hear about how I got this under my eye.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
if you guys saw me on Avita's show this week, we did a special Easter Monday um, interview. One, these are not the glasses I had before because the glasses I had broke at the tournament. And when I was coming home on the plane, they're all wonky and everything. So these are the ones I was able to order from the airport on Amazon before I got home. So I had something to wear in class the next day, right?
Perfect.
We're still working on the this is my Hollywood look, right? So this is my Hollywood look. I was so tired. And so I took advantage of the fact that Chaintown Cantius, the Canons are artists of all beauty. And, the music is magnificent over their Easter week
I'm
services.
envious.
But they go on for hours and hours and hours, right? So I was taking advantage of the live stream, which you all definitely should watch if you want to, see the mass as it can be performed, even in this day and age, with enormous
Mhm.
beauty and magnificent music and full, um, you know, uh, array of priests and altar boys and all of that. They live stream them all, and of course they're very good now at doing lots of camera angles and close-ups and shots, and you get to watch the activities around the altar that you wouldn't usually be able to see if you're back in
Mm.
the pews like I usually am. So I watched the Holy Week services from home on camera, and I was feeling sad because I usually manage to make at least the vigil in person, and I couldn't. It goes from 10 to 1 in the morning, and
Mm.
it's a fair ways away for me to drive. Anyway, I was feeling, it's like, have I actually observed the holy days appropriately? When I had not anticipated this. This is like, I think, a sort of joyous result of our online our hybrid reality, right? It's like
Mhm.
that I was watching the priests I know over Holy Thursday and Good Friday and the vigil on Saturday for hours and hours and hours, right? It's like 10 hours worth of watching the I don't know what to call them. Commemorations? No, it's services sounds too Protestant. So what is it?
Are you talking about Holy Saturday?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all three, right?
Right.
The Thursday, they do the
Other observances and
proper
yeah.
Eucharist, and then the stripping of the altars and such, and
Mhm.
then on Friday it took, the church was so full, the adoration of the cross took a full hour, just
That's
uh,
wonderful that it was so full.
right, of people going up to venerate, and then the vigil included. I mean, the bishop preached. That's right. Or did I hear the bishop on Sunday? Now I can't remember. Unfortunately, they blended.
Uh-huh.
No, I think he preached at the vigil, because I was having some weird thinking. Like, where is that? Where is he preaching from? And what's that camera angle? And I got a bit disoriented. But then they had, all of the baptisms, and they have
Yeah.
the confirmation, the chrisming, and everything. And it just, and then everyone receives. And I, was feeling kind of sad because I'd missed out, but I'd been a bit, under the weather, and I really couldn't get it. When I got there on Sunday, I was suddenly there. It was real. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is a good, it's like, we're all in the mass, in our liturgies, we're always trying to capture that feeling of stepping into heaven, right?
Mm, mhm.
And that place that I'd been seeing only on my screen. You guys, this is big and important and like cool and metaphorical. the
So
place
pay
I'd
attention.
the place I'd only been able to see on screen, I was suddenly in, right? And I
Like a
cried.
portal.
Yes.
Oh.
And I said, I know this church. I've been going there now for several years in person after watching the live streams on COVID, because that was how I did a blog post back at the beginning of the COVID live streams. They did them starting with COVID because they had done
Mm.
some live streams, but when COVID hit, they said, okay, we commit to doing them daily. So I
Yeah.
watched daily mass for a year in 2020.
Lovely.
Yeah, every day, every morning. I'd watch, attend spiritually with the canons. So by the time I got to go there, it was like, okay, this is great. And then I didn't want to watch online anymore because I said, no, I should be there in person. But this time it was great. It's like, you guys, we are watching virtually always. The Mass is our virtual experience. Think what it will be when we step in to reality. I was just like, wow,
Reality. Yeah.
into reality. And we catch only these gorgeous liturgical glimpses of it now.
Mhm. Which is why they were made gorgeous and magnificent, right? It's actually bring people into that idea that, you know, what heaven is really going to be like. It's way better than this.
Right.
This is
Even
why they put the best they could into their surroundings and the music and the pageantry.
right.
This is why they did that.
And that
It had a
sense
meaning.
of, anything that we can do, even no matter how beautiful we make our churches, no matter how beautiful we make our music, no matter how colorful our art and the flowers and the beauty of the words, heaven is even greater than my sense of going from only seeing it
Yeah.
online to being there.
Right. If you step into Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris and you look up and you go, wow, it's like that's not even 1% of what you're going to experience in the real in the real heaven. That was the idea.
Isn't
That was
that
the idea.
wonderful? Isn't that
Yes.
absolutely wonderful? And then I'm in my classes, reading Hildegard, and we've been reading her visions. And one of the final book of her first book of visions, the CVS, the Know the Ways of the Lord, is this vision of the edifice of salvation inhabited by all the virtues. And I'm, trying to show this. I love teaching with slides, right? So I have all the slides, and I'm saying, she's describing all these buildings for us as metaphors of the space of the soul, but also
Mhm.
the it's like the soul as heavenly Jerusalem, but not quite. And she's writing these books or dictating them while they're building her own monastery.
Hmm.
Right. So you're like the layering of reality that you want to participate in. And then last night I was watching, there's a wonderful movie called Vision, a German movie that was made of
Hmm.
her the portion of her life, right? The sort of
Yeah, I
central.
think I remember that. I haven't seen it yet, but yeah.
It's really well done. It's
Hmm.
I mean, and particularly since yesterday I was trying to teach the chronology of her relationships that we know through her letters, and they captured those really nicely. So just like stepping into the reality, how many more times, how many layers of reality do we still get to go? Yes.
Probably a lot if you're low down on the totem like I am spiritually. Sorry, God.
I do wonder about that. I mean, it's like, I've read Dante enough to know if you end up in purgatory, you're still on the way, right?
Yeah.
It's,
Like, yes, I may.
thank goodness I may be here at the bottom in pride, but I'll be there one day,
Yeah.
happily singing along, right? Yeah.
Yeah, most of us are aiming for purgatory, but I like what Mother Angelica of EWTN said. She said, don't aim for purgatory. You might miss. You know, it's good advice.
Well, I think one worries, right? So Milo is always saying this, like, it's like he
Oh.
wants to be with us in heaven, and he means
Mhm.
it. I've
Mhm.
gone to mass with him a number of times, and it's just like he's there and he's so happy, and I'm starting to get it.
Oh.
Right? Just it took me a while to really appreciate the Latin mass and how you are there with supporting the priests in their offering.
Yeah.
I didn't properly understand that. I was like, why do we get to sing more? It's like, where's the participation? And
Oh,
you are participating because you're there in the
yeah.
prayer.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, he's leading the prayers. That means he's leading you. That means you're part of it already.
Right. But that I recognize that, it's exhausting, not just, I mean, it's even more exhausting. Well, I think it's super exhausting for them, but it's even more exhausting when you have to be there in the church, and it's sort of this stillness that you're holding for
Mm.
hours and hours, right? Because you're so focused on the offering. Um
So you say you're looking for a distraction from that
Eh,
in the act of participation as is understood in the modern mass.
Well, no, just I was, I grew up Presbyterian, so
Hmm.
the one thing I really enjoyed about church was singing, right?
Yeah, it's
The
very
hymns,
similar, right?
the
So the modern
hymns.
mass is very similar to a Protestant, service, a Presbyterian service, or an Episcopalian service, maybe low church.
Well, it's
But
closer. I mean,
yeah.
it's closer because it's still formal, but the Presbyterian, like I go to the only Presbyterian church tend to go to now is my mom's, and they're
Mhm.
not nearly as formal, I think, as some of the ones that are still out there.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Well,
they
that's trended
robe and
away from
stuff like
that.
that, but
Yeah, yeah. That's everything tends to have homogenized, at least in the American churches, that way, including the Catholic churches, which is not a good thing, I don't think.
no, and we're I have in our pictures. Well, no, if I have the opening picture is a little silly, so we should stay we should stay with what we're talking about right
Oh
now.
yeah, right.
Um,
I just remembered it.
we
Yeah.
have a plan. You guys gotta know we have a plan. We have to do our sort of opening monologues to get you all set up and warmed up. And here we have the Rogue Wave and Happy Easter, Rogue Wave, and Mel,
Happy Easter.
aloha. Rogue Wave, watching a wonderful storm roll through and enjoying the wonder of God's creation in the thunder and lightning.
Nice.
Yes, yes,
I
that's
love
great.
that.
VA Boston, hello. Our parish church's small choir does such a lovely job every Easter too. Yes, we're a Rogue Wave. You should really try to enjoy the Mass here on earth because the Mass is a taste of heaven. If you don't enjoy Mass here, what makes you think you'll enjoy heaven? Well,
Okay, well, which mass are we talking about here? Okay, because if there's tambourines and rain sticks there, I'm not going to be happy.
tambourines are a good biblical instrument, I'll have you
They are
know.
not
Yes,
good.
they
I'm
are.
sorry.
Miriam,
No.
yes, Miriam after they came through the Red
Right.
Sea was a timpanistra. So
How about maracas?
timpanistra may include everything.
It's not supposed to. Well, I don't think it's supposed to include percussion, but that's a rubric thing. That's a rubric question for somebody, not me,
Well, I
because I
see.
don't
This
know
is
everything about it.
in the stuff that I've been reading about the medieval descriptions of Mary. One of her titles is Timpanistra because that's what Miriam is
Yeah.
after the.
Oh, but Mary comes down and says, "I want to play the tambourine." You got it. You're the boss. But I'm sorry, no, not during Easter Mass. It's just so
Well,
loud and
trumpets are great on
distracting.
Easter, don't you think? You need to.
No,
No, okay,
no, no, I don't.
just
No.
voices. I mean, so this is our can't just they had strings and organ and voices, and I do agree. And this is with Hildegard thinking about it that although actually in the movie they had some good instrumentals by the 12th century they're using some instruments, but the voice is the great instrument. The human
Yes.
voice is the great
And
instrument.
the musical instruments that are supposed to be used, when used at all, are supposed to be ones that mimic the human voice,
So,
from
well,
what I've
strings
read.
definitely do. Strings are a good
Yes.
mimic of human voices. I'm not sure
Mhm.
about organs. I've never
Yeah, I
really.
don't like
I don't
organs.
like organs.
I can understand it. I can understand how it mimics human voice, but if you look at the way it's constructed in the pipes, but I don't like it either. It's too loud. It's too loud and distracting
Well,
for
they're like, I mean, organs are like synthesizers, right? The idea was they all instruments,
candy.
right? Yeah. You
Yeah.
think about the way they have the stops so they can play the different kinds of
Mhm.
voices. They were basically 17th century synthesizers. So it's the same your reaction to having electric guitars.
Yeah, I would say synthesizers are 1980s, organs, right?
Right.
I
Yes.
would say that
That's the
reverse.
thing. So we're
Yeah.
here to celebrate the voice. Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So we had everybody's here. Everybody's here. Now we can get down to the serious stuff. Like then the world went weird. Right? I mean,
Then
we
the world went
then well, you have Easter, and I'm sort
weird.
of I keep getting in conversations on Social Galactic that I really should simply avoid. But there you go. Hi guys.
Can't
Uh,
just can't help yourself, can
yeah,
you?
just they start talking scripture, and I'm just such a sucker for trying to correct them, anyway. Um, so and you guys have got to watch Evita Duffy's show, and if you watch the one that I was on Monday, She's such a, I feel like Hildegard with Richardis right now with the veto, right? Is this she takes
Mm.
the things that I've shown her and that we've worked on. She did my Tolkien class, she did the poetry class, so that one of her poems is in the Writing Christian Poetry volume. So you guys got to
Mhm.
get that. And I was her advisor on the main research paper that she did her senior year on Margaret Sanger. So
Nice.
she knows her stuff. And then she's been writing for the Federalist, and now of course we had her on, right? But then
Mhm.
since we've had her on about this time last year, she's started her own podcast with Dan Bongino's channel
Yes,
or
very good.
platform, right? And she's just getting better and better. She's
Mhm.
so covering the things that we need to be thinking about. And so I was obviously very honored to get to show up and brag on her.
Yeah.
But it was surreal doing what we'd planned because she'd asked me to think, it's like, let's talk about, Easter in the Middle Ages. And we woke up with no trying to change the plan, and the Pope was dead. Right?
Yeah, that's
Just
weird
like, oh
timing.
my God.
Let's talk about religion. Okay, here you go.
Right, but the thing is, it was clearly on our minds somehow, right? Because I kept talking about Peter Damian, whom you guys should know about, because he's the
Mm.
reformer in the 11th century who suggests that it should be the College of Cardinals that makes the choice. So
Interesting. I
yeah,
didn't know that was
yeah.
his idea.
So if
It's
you're
very relevant currently if you read his other ideas on what should not be being done,
yes,
which I'm pretty sure they
Peter
are.
was on the one hand a great proponent of self-flagellation. There you go. I've written about that at length in From Judgment to Passion. It was part of
Mm.
his devotional life to Christ. Um, Combined with that, he was a heroic faster, right? Gluttony was a big so gluttony. He was very strongly against simony, paying for elevation to church offices, and oh
Mm.
yeah, sodomy, which is
Which was apparently a huge problem back then, as it is now today, publicly. And yes,
we don't change that much in our sins.
no, we don't. Occasionally, they become more prominent at certain times than others, at least publicly, right?
Indeed, indeed. The
Yeah.
thing is, I think the remedies for the sins are the same as they've always been because the sins tend to be the same as they've always been.
Hmm.
I mean, prayer and fasting, which is why when I was writing about Peter Damian, I was writing about him in From Judgment to Passion, and I was trying to write about the image of Christ around the year 1000. And Peter is very interesting in that because it's his generation. It's also like this millennial problem because he's he's born around the year 1000,
Mm.
and he grows up into this expectation of the second coming in 1033,
Ah,
right?
yeah,
So that we're in this like repetition of that. It's like we're in the
yes,
between time between the year 2000 and the year 2033, and the feeling of the meaningfulness of that cycling, right?
yes.
And
Where
Peter,
we should all be acting better, but we're not. And so people like Peter Damian would get extra angry, I'm guessing.
oh yeah,
They
he was
saw
good at
it.
angry. He the thing is we know what he thought because he wrote so many letters which were
Mhm.
kept and passed down. And yeah, he if you got a letter from Peter Damian, you were going to get a tongue lashing.
Yeah, he was a firebrand,
Oh,
which you'd call him today.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very strongly against the not just sodomy but the priests keeping concubines.
Mhm.
So it was all, but for him, it was all, as I've discovered, it's all about the purity of the altar, right? These are the people offering the sacrifice, right? They're the ones like our canons at Cantius who stand before God, and he practiced the self-flagellation because he's saying it's so vividly seen in his mind's eye, I suppose is the best way to put it, but also in the images in the churches at the time. The crucifixes are starting to become more graphic in his lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
The debt, it's this unpayable debt that we owe to God for love, the taking our debts on himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was weighed very heavily on him, to engage in self-flagellation, which did he have to get permission for that back then?
No, because so he did have to defend himself against it because a lot of people at the time thought it was weird.
Mhm.
And so some of
And they wouldn't be wrong. It is kind of strange.
It featured in the Hildegard Vision movies. It's like, okay, because I guess
Oh,
her the woman who cared for her as she was growing up practiced the discipline and wore a in the movie she wears a metal band around her
right.
body. Yeah. No, the reason we know what Peter argued for it was because he had to write letters in its defense. Also, because
Ah,
it was he and some of he wasn't the only one. He had another example of someone who kept that kind of heroic asceticism,
mhm.
Romuald, um, and he still modeled himself on him. But yeah, no, it was considered a novelty at the time, and so he had to defend it as an appropriate practice.
Mhm. And what was the main gist of his defense?
What I just said, that how much we owe Christ for, and the thing is, what I write in my book, what I read about my book, is how he thought of it very much in problems of debt, right? Literal monetary debt, and it's like this
Mhm.
coin that we owe, and that so all of this stuff that we talk about with usury, or our unpayable debts now, our country's unpayable debt, the actual
Yeah.
it's like money. They had the sufficiently complex money economy in the early 11th century in northern Italy that
Mm.
he meant debt. He meant Christ took on our debt. And
Yeah,
in the same way that we've been thinking about it of late, where it's like the compound interest, you can never pay back, it just eats up the principal and that's it, you cannot
right.
pay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So he did this to, well, I mean, he can't pay the debt, so why was he doing it?
Out of love, right? It's a mirroring it's just he's very Girardian.
Mhm.
I'm surprised Rene Girard didn't write, if so far as
Mm.
I know about Damien. um I've been writing a lot about stuff that people hadn't highlighted until I had, and now that I have, everybody hopefully will know it, but they'll forget that I said it usually.
We won't let them.
I had a very nice letter from someone in Antwerp this week who was reading From Judgment to Passion and had some very excellent questions about some of the sources I was taking. 20 years on, guys, I'm finally, finding my readers.
Nice. It's paying off.
It's finally paying. I finally caught it. The ability of the Times to hear me finally caught up with what I was saying back in 2000. That's good, right?
Cool. Yes, it is.
It's very good.
It's got longevity. It's got legs.
Well, anyway, so Avita had asked me to talk about Easter, and we said, and we were talking about Peter Damian and the College of Cardinals. I mentioned that, and then Francis, right, Saint Francis,
Mhm.
because she asked me, who is someone that you can think of that lives according to what we should be, and I was sitting there thinking Francis, and then she says, "As a ruler," and I'm like, well, I don't know, right, because the the political answers to everything are just so fraught, right? We cannot
Mhm.
talk about debts that we can't get out of. Here we have our pictures now, right? Here's one, the bunny rabbit.
That's a great angle, whoever took that picture.
Twitter provides, right?
Yes.
Here it is. I'd say, okay, so all but Francis, our Pope Francis had died. We were trying to think about the meaning of Easter. When I saw Trump on the balcony with Mrs. Trump and the bunny rabbit, I'm like, oh my gosh.
And yet he's made these beautiful pronouncements for Easter. I
This
mean,
is true. This is
that's kind
true.
of amazing.
But I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. It's like, here's the president, here's the first lady, and there's somebody in a rabbit costume.
That's the Easter bunny. I'll have you know.
I don't think the Easter Bunny's that big. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to
He was
sneak
when
under the
I was
fence.
when I was a kid, he was that
Oh
big.
yeah.
It was kind of like Harvey, yes, because he would leave these giant, like 1.5 foot long bunny tracks in our living room that led to the eggs. They were made with baby powder. So yes, my parents were very creative
My
in promoting the bunny myth.
my favorite ever Easter treat was a plastic rabbit full of those malt eggs. That was
Oh yeah,
that was good. that sticks with me forever after is the year the bunny got it right.
That was
That
your
was
favorite.
that was my absolute favorite. I think I liked it. Well, anyway.
I like the robin's eggs. Those are my
Yes,
favorite.
like
They weren't
those
malteds.
the robin's
Yeah,
eggs, the malted
but I
robin's
love the
eggs.
peanut butter eggs too. I didn't always get those, but I did love them.
There was one year the peanut butter with these giant like the globs of chocolate, and we were sort of slowly eating them and started thinking, "Oh, would they taste nutty?" And so it's like, how's the chocolate have that? And it's like when we finally got into the middle, it's oh wow, it's full of peanut butter.
Yeah,
But it took ages. It took ages and ages.
that was a big
Ah,
one.
those were the days when the
Yeah,
rabbit provided. Yeah.
yes, and yes, and my body wouldn't kill me for eating them. Yeah.
So there was the president on the balcony, and they were there for the egg roll, right? For the
Yes.
kids.
Yeah, which was on Easter Monday, which I didn't know they did it after Easter, but I guess they do.
Well, I mean, it is appropriate. This whole week should have been the octave of Easter, right? It's like it's all
Yeah,
Easter.
it is.
We're
Yeah,
still, this is you don't just do one day of feast, you do the whole week, right?
correct. And everybody forgets that,
Right, because
right?
we do
Because
all
it's
we're great at build up and then oh, we're done now. We've got to leave.
well, I think it's because of in the Protestant tradition, if they celebrated it at all, it was the day of, and that's it. It was the day of the resurrection, and that was it. It wasn't an entire week. It wasn't an octave, and I think we just kind of inherited that in the secular world. So
How
when he,
pagan it all is, rabbits and such not.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when he
Yeah.
did it after Easter Day, as you just pointed out, yeah, that's perfectly appropriate, right? That's the feast week. And I'm thinking, but Easter's over. I'm thinking like a Protestant. I'm like, Easter's done now. It's like, well, no, it's not. It's just started.
It's just
It's a whole
starting.
season.
It's
It's not a
just
day.
starting.
Yeah, it's
So
the
I
whole
do like
season.
this, you guys. If you appreciate Cantius's art and music and such, they carry on. We carry on. It's like that. There's going to be the first communion East Mass when all the kids show up, and then there's various they just keep getting more elaborate every year because they add stuff,
Nice.
and by Pentecost we've developed. I forget. I'm overwhelmed. I just go, right. And then the really great Corpus Christi procession, and it carries on and on and on. You never get to ordinary Pentecost until maybe July.
I think that's right, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in this Easter. So one of the things Evita, I'm doing the footnotes to the Vita's stream, Evita stream. She'd also been talking about what we talked about on our stream 2 weeks ago, which was the penguins and the trade and the problem of the pirates. Right? You remember that? Do you remember
Mhm.
our last stream was about the
It's all blending together. I'm like,
And then I wrote
wait a
it up
minute.
and put it up on Substack, find the link. And then Evita talked about it on her show. We're doing major crossovers here, right? We'll have to have
Yeah.
her back on
Yes.
to, fill in the blanks, right? But she's saying,
Yeah, I'm
sort of,
trying to.
what should we do here now in this post-Christian world? And I'm like, we've been in the post-Christian world since AD, 33.
Yes. When, yeah.
What do you
When the
mean
first Roman
post-Christian? Of
jailer.
course it's
Yeah.
post-Christian. It's, Easter time,
Yeah.
all of it.
I was thinking when the first jailer put the first, anti-Christian graffiti up on a wall,
Mm,
right, with Christ with the head of a donkey because he
mm.
was mocking him. It's like nothing's changed. 2,000 years.
We're still facing the paganism of the
Right.
default, like, again, to review, guys, just catching you all up because we had quite a year. When we had John Davidson on, and he was talking about pagan America, it's like, yeah, it's
Mhm.
the choices are pagan or Christian. That's it,
Always was.
right?
Yeah.
Or what, pagan, Jewish, or Christian, in the sense that they're different poles of choice, but it's Christian or Christian, right? We're
Mhm.
here in the Christian world, and yet, you know, weirdness. Okay, I'm going to catch
Any
up with the
more weird
chat.
today
They're having
than
Peter, Damien Stone. I finally see what you did there. Aha.
wasn't
Oh,
even thinking that,
wow.
but I like it.
I'm glad VA Boston gets it. That means 20 years from now, everybody else will. Okay. The
Oh,
devil's in the usury. The accuser takes the debt of sin and charges interest on our soul, a debt we could never pay. Yes. Exactly. Christ used money and debt in a lot of his parables. It's true. I mean, it's like the forgive us our I as a Presbyterian, I say, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. That's the right translation.
Mhm.
There's these trespasses stuff, right? It's not just property rights, it's debt. Forgive us
Yeah.
our debt as we forgive our debtors. And that's what shows up in the parables, the forgiveness of the debt.
Mhm.
Um, Okay, rulers worth emulation, according to Rogue Wave. Gabriel Garcia Moreno, San Luis. I mentioned San Luis since I was born in his city, but Blessed Karl of Austria. I should learn more about him. That's, yes. So
Mhm.
Mel's saying it's bright week. It's still it's
Is
yes.
that what it's called?
I guess.
Oh,
Um, yes,
I
Rogue
think
Wave.
Blessed
You get
Carl.
it. You get it. History is
I,
divided between what happened before and after one great historic event. That's it. The passion, death,
yeah.
and the Council of Nicaea. I see what you did there. Are we going to explain to the viewers, right? Because unless they're following the long discussion on Social Galactic, they won't know what we're talking about. But anyway,
I've seen that, yeah. I've seen that discussion before. Go ahead.
who might? It's recurrent, like the liturgy and like the return of the feast each year. So I'm trying to figure. Okay, so we were talking. We didn't get to deal with Pope Francis, because we'd actually planned to talk about Easter, and I think I hope I made this point clearly in Avita's stream, but I want to make sure that I make it clear for us now. She asked me, so what's the difference between then medieval Easter and now? And what I said was the apse mosaics. And this is all. I would prefer to build this up and make you read 300 pages and finally get to it and go, oh wow, but because that's what I do. But it took me 2 books and decades of wrestling with it to get to this point. So I'll just tell you guys now, because we don't have 30 more years. That I started as a Presbyterian with no body on the cross, because Presbyterians just have the empty cross, saying that they mean they honor the resurrection rather than the death, because he's resurrected, he is risen. We're always in the Easter time. And when I was growing up, therefore, when I first went to Europe and saw the Catholic crucifixes with the body, I was curious, right? It's like, what is this? Particularly when I saw them in Florence and in Rome. And I remember one particular one in Salzburg, Austria, tucked back in a cemetery chapel. And I'm like, I need to understand this. This makes no sense to me. My dad had always saying, we worship the risen Lord. We don't have a body on the cross. I'm like, okay, so what is it? So my first book, From Judgment to Passion, is the development of that curiosity about why so much focus on the death. Why so much focus on compassion, Mary's compassion for Christ on the cross? Why be so focused on the sorrow when, if the truth of the matter is, as Christians, we know we live in the risen Christ. We've been baptized into his death and risen again. Well, because there's a simple reason that, and I think this is very nicely demonstrated at St. John Cantius in their art in this church that was built in the early 20th century. So it's not medieval, but it gets it. The apse mosaic is the resurrection, but there is a crucifix with a very, life-sized body on it that's in the middle, more like in the middle of things. It's on the front pillar in the right-hand side in the nave. It's like you need the whole ensemble of images to get the point. The crucified Christ is the one who entered into our humanity, entered into our time, entered into our experience and died, which is what Peter Damian was recognizing. And he's the same one who's in the apse mosaic in majesty. And that, for me, it's like like my experience of going from watching on screen and being in the midst on Sunday. It's like we got the crucifixes because they're sculptures and we like in the round and such, but it's like it's in the round because that's in time, that's in our embodied sense. the majesties, which are what we don't have anymore because they were painted over or the churches were taken down, the sculptures could be moved around. And so they're stuck somewhere else or they're in a museum or something like that. But the apse mosaics or the apse paintings, like the ones in Constantinople of the majesty, they're meant to make you think about this twinning, both heaven and earth, right? His incarnation and his resurrection. The designers for St. John Cantius, I love that church more and more because they did it right, and they were like ordinary guys. They were just these Polish craftsmen from Krakow who wanted their own church. That's
Cool.
like that's we yes, we worship the risen Christ, but we have to remember what he rose from.
Right, but we're also meant to follow Christ, not just into heaven, but through suffering.
Oh yeah,
We're supposed to
yeah.
enter into that, and that's a reminder of what exactly it took, what exactly he did, and what's expected of us, in being like Christ.
This is true, but from the 19th century, the focus has constantly been on he's a historical figure, right? Which is where we're going here, right? We're going here with the historical problem, and the very modernity has very much lost sight of the majesty. It's think about it. Think about it. In all of the movies, I mean, I'm interested that Mel Gibson is making the Resurrection movie, which is going to be
Oh yeah, I'm
wild.
so happy about that.
Yeah, but
That very last scene in the first one, when I was in the theater watching that, when he stood up and walked out, and I understand that was put kind of almost as an afterthought. He almost didn't include that, but he did. The entire theater went, just like they were relieved.
yeah,
After all that torture they
right.
saw him go through, that he rose up and was like perfect. Right? I mean, the holes were still in his hands, but he was
Oh yeah,
perfect.
and the
There was no
light goes
blood.
through it in the you
Yes,
see it through
it
his
was
hand.
really amazing, and the effect it had on the audience was astounding. It was natural, and it was everybody had the exact same reaction. Everybody was relieved.
Well, I like too. I can't make myself watch The Passion over and over and over again.
I've never watched it again. That's
I've
the only
watched it
time I've ever
twice.
watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the second time I watched it a few years ago, and it's so striking to say,
Caviezel.
Caviezel is so handsome and healthy and alive at the beginning, and it's
Yes.
less than a day. Right? It's
Yep.
it's like
That's the way it was.
yeah. So there it is. So but in modernity, what we tend to do is Easter is the empty tomb, right? It's like all of the all out there on Twitter. Mainly, what I saw, it wasn't Christ in majesty. Okay, he's not
Yeah.
ascended yet, and so okay, but it's not it's just the emptiness, right? He's not there. He's risen. He's
Hmm.
gone, and we are nervous in modernity about showing God in any form, right? And so it's almost like the concern about the idolatry of the crucifixes of the body. It's the wrong focus on why we show Christ in that moment.
Hmm.
But it's also it's not you didn't walk back into church on Easter if what all you get stuck with is you worship death.
Yeah, that's silly.
But you've
Right.
heard it, right? People get
No,
stuck.
I've never heard that, but it doesn't surprise me because it's usually a pejorative, meant that people would say to dismiss something that scares them to think about,
Right.
something they don't
Right.
understand. And people are afraid of death. They don't like to think about it, even though Christ conquered it. They still don't want to think about that part of it. They just want to think about. They want to think about the glory. They don't want to think about the death.
I'm not even it's guys I playing with the microphone to make sure that I keep my voice close to it now, and you see how I changed all my tech and everything, so my physical voice can be transformed into this ethereal transmission to you guys. In the chat you can tell me whether I've made it worse or better. I don't know. I mean, I think it's like the Easter Bunny is a good demonstration for most people, who's saying it's about God. It's meant to be about God. It's meant to be holy, and you got this it's not about the ruler, our president doing the salute. It's not about the bunny, right? It's
Mhm.
something about, well, like What should we be? Okay, now this is where I think our theme of pictures is going to work. So, whoops, there we go. What a week it's been. We got the four horsemen of the apocalypse, including oh shoot, stop, go back, go back. Oh man, I blew it.
It's good. That was a good intro.
I know. They
I
started
know what picture you're talking about.
they started playing manual stop start. Okay. Anyway, we're back with the four horsemen: war, famine, pestilence, death, and you are. He's looking at his phone. Propaganda, right?
Yeah.
You know the we are. We had Easter, we had the bunny rabbit, and then bango, we're back in the middle of. I mean, it's not corgi races when it should be. It should be joy and joy on the lawn with the pink and the spring colors with the corgis. Instead, it's like can you run down what happened this week? I mean, the Pope dies, and then bango, 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 bango. I can't even believe it's only been 3 days, 4 days.
So other than the Pope dying, which really isn't a surprise,
Right.
he was very, very unhealthy. Is there something else disastrous that happened this week? I can think of something positive that happened this week, right? There's these peace talks in Russia, I think, are a positive
Right.
thing, very positive thing. And they weren't talking just about Ukraine. I think they were talking about other things too. And talking is what needs to happen.
Right.
People need to talk to
Yes.
each other. This is
Yes.
good. It's a good positive thing.
Well, I guess so. I mean, one of the things I'm thinking about. So we had this, this is the season of the encampments, and
Is it encampment season already again?
it's encampment season. Okay, so I had the AI. I knew we were going to run out. Okay, we have the encampments, right? And academia is in it. You would never know that it was just Easter on campus.
Would you ever know it was Easter on campus anyway?
Well, fair enough. It's certainly not Easter right now because the Students for Justice in Palestine have put up another installation, which they have, diligently marked as an art installation and gotten permission for. But this one, I'm not showing you all of the images. This one is showing our
Mhm.
president, Paul Ali Visatos, and it's a divest. I felt like the other ones were too ugly to show, right? It's very disturbing having this sitting right in the middle of campus in front of the divinity school with, blood running out of their eyes and,
Yeah, how dare you be peaceful and have a pleasant week when these people I care about over here are suffering.
well, more than that, it's so Jerry Coyne, who does blogs on his Evolution is True blog, talks through it. I mean, one of the things they have on the tent is the handprints, the red handprints, which is a memorial, a remembrance of a particularly brutal murder of 2 Israeli soldiers who
Mm.
were caught in Ramallah and
Mm.
murdered by the people there. So we're back. We're back, right? We're back to divest. With their divest thing means that we shouldn't, as an institution, have any investments in Israel, and the people that they included on the other sides of this tent in the die images are members of our board of trustees
Mm.
who they consider part of this bloodthirsty investment. There's another. I didn't put. This is against the Trump administration sending letters to places like Harvard, telling them to do something about the anti-Semitism on campus.
I
And
apologize. I did not plug my computer in. I gotta go run and get it. That's
what did you do?
I'm running out of power because I forgot the one thing I forgot was my plug. Sorry, I'll be right
Go
back.
go 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 go. Okay.
Sorry. Very sorry.
She's gonna be off. What do we have here? Rug wave. In my experience, you say you can't truly appreciate Easter unless you observe a good penitential Lent. I never observe a proper penitential Lent, but it becomes penitential whether I do it or properly or not. This time I hurt my knee, So I've not been able to walk for weeks. I somehow managed to fence, which is interesting because of the stance that it had and the adrenaline that I had and the brace that I had on my knee. But I can't take stairs at the moment. I can go upstairs, but I can't really go downstairs. And that has definitely, I mean, it disrupted. And I don't know how to mute
Yes.
her. Mute her. There she goes. Oh,
Yes,
she's
that was
back.
me. I'm terribly sorry. Yes, that was
I
me.
put my dog. I took my dog's
I am not
toy
a
away from him.
professional. Sorry.
You're not a professional. Neither am I. So
No,
we were a good team. I was saying, so Rogue Way was saying that, practice good penitential lint. My accidentally penitential past 5 weeks has been not being able to walk. Right. I could fence but not walk. Go figure.
Okay, she is an official badass. You know that, right? Yeah, she hurt her knee and got a bronze medal with a hurt knee.
Hey, that's if you
Just
knew
want to throw that out
the people I'm
there.
fencing against, you realize that we've all done it, right? It's
Oh,
like, yes, I've had my 10 minutes break. I can get up and fence, right? And you
yeah,
do.
she's
You somehow.
modest. Come
Well,
on.
yes, because I've seen others of us do it too. It's like I see people who could not walk, get on strip, fence, and then go. It's like a magic trick somehow. It's like you put that mask on. Never mind Jim Carrey and his mask. You pull your mask down, you breathe, and it works. All you have to do is practice for decades.
That's all,
That's all.
right? Practice like every week for 52 weeks a year for 20 years. That's it.
a mere dawdle. And just think how good I am at writing, right?
Yeah.
I do that even more, right? Okay, so we're thinking about the universities where I teach, and you guys see me. I live here on the internet, right? In this little moment, but I also obviously have other things that I'm doing during the day, which includes teaching my classes. And so on campus, it's twinning between. The Trump administration is going to take all of our funding. It's going to collapse our academic freedom. We had a little forum we have a forum for free inquiry and expression, which had a special faculty only event yesterday, which included one of the co-founders of FIRE, George Lukenieff, and one of our law professors who does First Amendment. And, they were talking about what should we do in the Trump administration, guy with bunny rabbit ears, right? About academic freedom anymore. And the dinosaur images are from Elgato Malo's Substack saying it's over. You may think he apparently went to Brown, right? Which gives him some cred, and even though he can't use capital letters because he's a cat. One of my academic colleagues was sharing his Substack. So this guy, we're reading Gato. We noticed you, even though we're corgis. That it's a sort of funny time because on the one hand, the protests are using the campuses to make strong political and moral arguments, and the universities trying to hold to their claim that we should be neutral spaces for academic debate, which of course they haven't been. And those of us who were mandated and locked down and masked and like all me and the other one at this faculty meeting yesterday, I did raise my hand and say, well, okay, look, I voted for Trump. I was appointed by him to a committee that I served on in the State Department for a year until the Biden administration fired me. And therefore, I find it very strange that you're so worried about losing your academic freedom now when what we've just lived through, which was you are going to be fired if you don't take this experimental drug.
No, you have to be consistent or you're not going to be taken seriously. And they're not consistent. They're, I guess, what's the word? Is it, I wouldn't want to say opportunistic. They have flexible standards.
Well, it's between the dinosaurs who are, winning academic freedom in a context in which the reason that they're being, chided for not, with depending on our taxpayer money is because they've had the diversity requirements and the other Title VI and the Title IX things, and now the war protest, the Students for Justice and Palatine protest are also, in fact, I mean, I've seen some of the videos. They are targeting Jewish and Jewish students and faculty on campus. So it's all this, well, free speech for you, but not for she's gone. Her battery died. Oh no. Come back. Well, look, I could go to my next one. It's like the AI has obviously also been what I need right now is an AI KC because she vanished. I'm hoping she can figure out how to make her battery come back on. Because if her battery's dead, I'll never know. Oh, she came back. See, I've got you an AI version of you on. Can you hear me? Oop, she went. This is we can make jokes about her appearances.
Me?
You, yes. Oh, look, she can hear it. We can hear her too. We don't need to use the AI version. What?
Can you not see me now? Can you see me now?
Yes.
Okay.
What did you do?
Sorry.
You stop playing Jesus on us. Right?
I am not put together today. I'm not put together
You're blipping in and out like Jesus.
I plugged in and then I looked and then the screen went black and I looked down and I'm like, why am I not plugged in? I ran out of the room to get the plug.
We're all a bit discombobulated.
I feel like Wayne's World. That's the level of production.
I've actually done it. I went out to where the guy, Aurora, Illinois, where Wayne's World was set for my very first ever in a proper television studio setup when Tyler Hummel had me on his show.
Oh, that
to
is
talk about
hilarious.
Tolkien.
That's
Yeah,
Aurora, Illinois.
It was actually Wayne's World, and he had a Wayne's World cap in his set to honor the location. Okay. Anyway, we're back. I'll go back to. Never mind about the AI.
I'm not touching anything.
Stop touching everything.
Nothing's gonna unplug. Okay.
Thinking about as usual, I'm pretty sure all of these things tie together, right? In terms of why is this week we are having to look at both sides of this particular debate, which is, the place of the universities in our national culture. And what I said to this meeting yesterday was, well, one of the reasons that, of course, the Trump administration has the support of a lot of the people who didn't go to Harvard in this situation is that the people in the Ivy Leagues have been calling all of them names for a good decade now.
Right, and been excluding them for entrance.
Right, excluding them for entrance, calling them, among other things, white supremacist. And Avita brought this up on her show this week. Remembering this report that came out in June or July 2021 about how the greatest threat to the country was going to be white supremacy. And, of course, that was invented by people in the academy, proving that it exists. They did, books and scholarly reports and such to prove that this... Right,
so they can justify discrimination.
Right, so they can justify discriminating against the entire rest of the country, whom they now want to give them money. So
this is a monster. This is a monster that was created by the U.S. government when they kept giving them grants over the decades, over the last century, and made them feel as if they earned it just by being them. It is very elitist. Did it start out as elitist? Maybe, that's a whole another layer to the story. I mean, it started out as you pointed out on Vita's show this week. It started out as a seminary for congregational Christianity for the Puritans.
Harvard did.
Right. Harvard did. And Harvard still believes that about itself, that it's special and that it's set apart, and the government giving them grants and money for a long time and saying, oh, we've got a Harvard educated attorney on the Supreme Court. We have a Harvard educated doctor, or Harvard educated this or Harvard educated that.
Right.
I'm sure everybody's heard that ad nauseum over their whole lives. And they really started to believe their own press. And they really started to believe not just about themselves, but by contrast, everybody else must be lower than them.
Well, the
And
rest of academia spends all of its time being the other Harvard, right? We're the Harvard of the
yep,
Midwest, and Rice, where
correct.
I was an undergraduate, was the Harvard of the
Right,
South, right?
and they're not, and they're
So
not,
it's the
and they're right,
criterion that
they're not
they
helping.
right that they use to say, well, we're
Yeah,
as good as Harvard, just not in Massachusetts. And one,
right.
nobody ever believed them because Harvard, it's like it does. The trick doesn't work unless you actually think
It is,
Harvard's
and it
better.
is a trick. It is a trick, and
Hmm.
I
The
have no doubt.
propaganda, the propaganda.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that they had that really at times superior professors in certain topics. I don't think you last as long as they have without offering something people actually want.
Oh, and
But
they still do, right? The absolute
yeah,
best medieval art historian is at Harvard.
wonderful.
Yeah,
That's
he's
wonderful.
he's
They're not doing
magnificent.
themselves any favors though by being very dismissive towards everybody else and elitist.
Right.
Because when that happens, you no longer have anything anybody wants because eventually they're just going to reject you out of hand. So, Harvard, stop committing suicide. Just stop it. Really.
Yeah, I'm wondering. It's like whether there's a particular animus between Trump and it was where Obama was in law school. But anyway,
Lots of people were in law school there. I think
right.
even didn't even Bush go to the school for was it
I thought he
which
was at
was the
Yale,
business
right?
school?
Oh
He
well.
went to Yale, but he got his master's. I think he got his master's at Harvard.
Okay,
Right.
one way or the other, you need the stamp, right? So that you can
Yeah, you
say,
need the stamp of
"We are of the
approval.
world. We are of the
Yeah.
prestige." And
Right.
yes, they're upset that, and this is of course why it's the opposite side of why the protests were staged at these institutions, because they are
Yeah.
the place that you're
Hmm.
going to have that. Um,
There's yeah, I can hear in your voice something's missing though, isn't it? When you're trying to think about why are they targeting Columbia and Harvard and the University of Chicago?
um,
You can't say. I mean, they can't say. Well, it's because of all of this Jewish money. Jewish money's everywhere. They give a lot of money to their institutions.
right.
That's not a fault, right? So, but why did they pick? Is it just because they were in big cities that were very visible, or is there something more?
Well, of course, there's something more, but I think so I'm trying to it's like because we always have to search and query this of. I think in our context today, it's going to be the problem of proof
Hmm.
and the because okay, yes, there I found it. They should be Christian, right? The whole point about Harvard, it was to study Christ and
Right.
to train, to train themselves in truth
Right.
in the search for Christ. And oh, here's a blunt reason. They're in trouble because they've forgotten Christ. It's I mean,
Well,
how hard
yeah.
is it, right?
Aren't we all? Yeah.
It's straight up. It's like I now I'm trying to figure out who I. Well, I told that to Evita, right? It's saying,
Hmm.
why are they in such trouble now, and what should they do? And it's like they should remember who they are. They are Christ's. They were founded for Christ. If you want to search for truth, you
They're
search
embarrassed by Christ.
you serve our Lord Jesus Christ. And of course, I didn't even say it that strongly at the divinity school. In this tent on campus, what you see behind it is
Hmm.
the administration building, but it's in front of the divinity school too. When I said at the divinity
Hmm.
school, these 8 years ago, 2017, yes, um, that again, I keep saying it, the thing that I saw that in the freakouts over Milo's talks in 2016, 2017 was an inability to deal with the religious dimension of what we were living through. We were in a spiritual crisis. We were in a religious crisis, which everybody now agrees, right? And so if you say that the institutions that are found that are, you're going to be a dinosaur if you live only for this world.
I think Obama was the first major political candidate that came out directly attacking Christians publicly
Yeah.
for being Christian, right? And
Clinging to
it
their
was a
guns and
very
their Bibles.
into their lungs and their Bibles and yeah, oh, those people. That was the attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And so he basically gave permission to coordinated efforts like those against Milo.
Mm-hmm.
to go right ahead and just act as badly as they wanted to because they now had the moral high ground.
Right.
Right. I think Rush Limbaugh used to call, just jokingly, ironically, Obama was their messiah. It's not really a joke.
Right.
I think a lot of people looked at him like that. I think trying to go into the psychology of why is an entirely different topic and show, but it was definitely observable. And he gave them permission to act badly, and they did.
Right. Well, this is so yes, this is what I was saying that I had the AI, everybody's talking about the AI a lot right now, and it's like it's demonic, and we'll okay, fine, right? Because I mean, it's demonic in this in the same way all tools that become idols are. That you are.
Except this,
Go ahead.
all right, go ahead.
No.
There's this slightly different element in that, though. Some people actually do think it can be literally possessed by demonic spirits.
Well, to be fair,
Not consistently,
to be
not
fair,
always, but
writing
it can be.
and the electronic media and everything, it's like the people who did magic back in the Middle Ages were the clerks who could write. Right.
Right, they
And
wrote down spells.
they wrote
Yeah.
down spells, right? And they tried to
Hmm.
use their spells to conjure angels to teach them
But
stuff, right? So
but also, but yeah, there's also what is it called? I don't know the proper term for it. It's like it's automatic writing,
yeah,
basically,
right,
where something's writing through you,
right,
right? It's what the New Agers called channeling about 30 years ago. So that's been around for a while. So yeah, same thing, right? It can
right.
get in there. A lot of people think it can get in there.
Well, and I say I've been talking about Hildegard and her visions and watching Vision last night, and the problem is how do you know it's from God? How do you know your vision's from God
Right.
and not from the enemy? And
Hmm.
so with the AI, I mean, I am honestly scared of it, but I'm mainly scared of well, I'm scared of it in the sense of it's yet another extension of our ability to uh, collect information about people,
Well, oh, okay.
which David was, cursed by God for doing a census. Right? It's like this is straight up in the Bible that Dave, and then God gives King David a choice. Right? Is you'll have a plague or something else because he counted the people. So
Why did God not want him to count the people?
see, and in when William the Conqueror makes Doomsday Book, it's basically a register of all the property in the kingdom, which he
He's
claims
counting the
is
people.
counting the people, right? So with the AI is, it's like, okay, one, it's people are going to get lazy about their structuring their thought, and it's the same kind of laziness you get if you use a calculator all the time. Guilty.
You're using other people's thoughts when you use AI to write
Right.
fiction
Right.
or to write any kind of exposition even. Um, you're, and to me, I mean, as a writer, it's a matter of pride not to use something. Why would you want to? Why would you say, I'm so proud of myself for using 10 million other people's thoughts? Right?
Well,
Have none
that's,
of
I
my
mean, we
own.
do books too. We read books. We use dictionaries.
I did not read fiction for the longest time because I didn't want it to influence the fiction I wanted to write. I've since learned that's maybe not the best idea.
That's not the best idea. You're
But
always
that
in.
was my
The
thinking.
thing is, you're in conversation with other writers all the time. It's like
Yeah.
we're in conversation. It's like, and this is okay. So we're in Christ. We need to understand ourselves to be in Christ. Main arching lesson here. The things that are happening in the world right now are quite just frustrating and disturbing. And as usual, I know they're all connected, and I'm gonna figure out how.
Of course they are. And you can always find it really well too.
Of
It's funny.
course, of
Fun,
course
fun
they are.
watching your brain work.
We're supposed to be finding the ways in which these things come together, and um it's like, well, one, like envision Hildegard, the movie, when the movie is dramatizing what we can learn of her, her from her works. And one, she's really happy to have these books on, like, plants and animals and such, because she's
Mhm.
famous for her, particularly famous in Germany for her natural philosophy knowledge and medicine and things like that. And
That's actually fun to read. I have read that one.
yeah, putting together knowledge from other people so that you can extend your knowledge. That's what we do, right? That's scholarship. So it's
Yes.
like the AI, on the one hand, you can feel it as saying this is like a big database or catalog or dictionary with summaries, like the gloss ordinaria. Whoops. So that I can look up, what other guys said about this, the common, scripture,
Uh-huh.
and write my sermons out of these encyclopedias and handbooks. The Middle Ages makes lots of encyclopedias and handbooks. Sample sermons. So, like, there's a famous discussion well, famous to me, in Jocelyn of Brakeland's Chronicle of Bury St. Edmunds, when they're worried about the man that's being chosen as prior. This is in the late 12th century, because he can't. He's not literate enough to compose his own sermons, and the abbot just says, "Well, he can read somebody else's." This is it. I mean, a lot of part of what I have in my own scholarship to read of people's preaching is because they wrote it down, because other guys wanted, these ones you just read them as some entertainment. I went to read some sermons. They used each other's sermons and
Mm.
model letters and things like that. So it of itself, I can see how if you simply use it as a tool of collection and the more pieces of the mosaic that then you are engaged actively in participating in, maybe this is the metaphor that we're looking for, this incarnational, like participation in. If you look to the AI as everybody's always wanting a way out, right? It's going to be easier if I can just,
Yeah.
the tool will do it for me and I don't have to suffer. That's it.
Oh, no, you grow through suffering.
Right?
You grow through hard work. Your brain's not going to stretch. It's going to atrophy.
It's what you said. It's what you said about why, it's like we have to follow Christ. We have to enter into the suffering, the passion, the
Mhm.
reality to follow him into heaven. We don't get there any
Yes.
other way. You don't get to just like lift up and not go through Good Friday.
Yeah. Heaven, salvation is not something you can name and claim, right? You have to follow Christ.
Right.
You can't just say, I'm going to reject suffering. I once met I'm going to assume, well-meaning person a very long time ago who was a born-again Christian and very sincere. And she very sincerely said, I reject pain in childbirth. I'm not going to have it
There you
because
go.
God does not want me to be in any pain, right? And I haven't seen her since college. It was a very long time ago, but I sincerely hope she didn't lose her faith when she got her first bad labor pain, because I mean it was
Mm,
going to come, right?
yeah. Yeah.
But I think that sounds really frivolous, but when they're so sure they know exactly how God has planned for you to do every single step of your life, and then you miss a step that you were so sure about, your faith is going to falter. That itself is a suffering. If you accept it, then you're following in the steps of Christ, which is what you're supposed to do, right?
Right. Right. Well, I think this works this way. It's like the AI is this kind of temptation. The universities are the parent situation of that hope, right? The particularly the things that were listed in the restrictions on Harvard's money tended to be medical research, and it's all
Mm.
this scientific research. The thing is, I think the universities became the context for giving all this federal money after World War II.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's we blew up the world, and oh great, now we're going to be the power, and you're going to spend more. It's like an extension of the Manhattan Project. Well, we did well with
It
that.
was.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll just
Yeah.
give money to universities, and
Right.
they're now completely folded into that purpose as institutions, so that it's like we're supposed to be schools. Ha ha ha. Right. It's like I
Mhm.
think I'm not sure, this is not fair. It's like if you sometimes feel like some of my academic colleagues are going to be perfectly happy with the AI because it just enables you to make stuff faster, right? Isn't that what we're
Yeah.
supposed to be doing?
Well, it depends what you're making, what kind of quality it is, right? I mean, we saw with our poems, we put through Grok, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it was fun, but it wasn't good. Because it only had a very rudimentary understanding of what we were trying to do, and very quickly degenerated into something not recognizable
Right.
um, as the task we set before it. It's not a human brain. It never will be. It just collects facts.
Well, it's what we're trying to do in these exercises together in our conversation. It's like, okay, we've got the bunch of these pieces of things, this mosaic problem, and
Mm-hmm.
we keep practicing. We are actually, hi audience, trying to show you the way that we think together, and craft, understanding in
Yeah.
conversation, right? God,
Yes.
God becomes incarnate, enters into the world, talks to us, right? through whatever Jesus said,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're meant to, we learn how to be from those stories that he gave us, and you have to wrestle with them and puzzle over them, and they're very poetic and metaphorical. I had an interesting exchange with someone who wrote to me after Evita's stream, who's desperate to convince me that I was wrong about the metaphors. Jesus didn't talk in metaphors; he just said love, and I said, well, he used parables a lot, and he's like, well, that's not what I meant, and I've said, well,
Well, what did you mean?
he was upset because I talked about the machines and the market in communism and capitalism as idols. And he's like, no,
What?
the machines give us, all this, industry and goodness, and the market's
Oh,
neutral. And
right.
I said, uh-huh,
The market's not neutral. It's easily manipulatable. Easily.
right. But it's
Yeah.
like the AI, it's like, oh, but that's just going to give us more access to, being able to solve stuff. And we'll all be,
In fact,
if we just have enough AI and markets and machines, we'll all be comfortable. Oh, yes, that's exactly what the communists said. If you just have enough machines, nobody has to work. They said that in the
right.
ABC of communism. And the universities keep saying this too. It's like, if you just give us enough money, we'll solve everything. And then what? Right?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. We just wrote about this in Act Three, the market.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I always, when people talk about, as yourself, what communism was aiming for, and a lot of people say, no, no, they just want people to, to work. Was it to work to get the fruits of their labor, right?
Right.
To work should be fair. And I keep remembering, oh yeah, the Russian word for work is roughly translates as robot. So are they turning people into robots?
Well, the ideal that they taught was mass industrialization, and if
Yes.
you the idea being, if you industrialize everything, and the workers all work for the workers, you will eventually eliminate the need to work. So they're straight up. I mean,
Right.
the AI machine robot world, this is why the China has no trouble with going, robot factories, because that's the premise.
Well, the thing is, you end up working to support the humans, end up working to support the robots because they need so much input and parts and maintenance. And I suppose you can try to create AI to, be a robot that works on robots. Where does it end?
Well, okay, so our next example after the is this one. Here's the video.
How are you, Mr. President? Fine, just fine, thank you. How are you? So good to see you.
So this is Witkoff, right? And he's being greeted by Putin,
Oh, right,
and they're
right.
and they're sitting down around
This pretty table with a
this
little vine around
table.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they all sit down. I'm going to play this a few times because there's a lot to unpack in here. All these things happened this week, right? The
Yes.
death of the
It is
Pope, and
momentous.
it's
Yeah.
it's 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 a wild week. And this, if we watch this again, so we new viewers, right? I know people, everybody. Hi, people that followed me here from Avita's show. Thank you. um, we did get a fair number of new subscribers on our newsletter, so hopefully they'll
Cool.
join us on the Mosaic Arc as well. That we did a full breakdown last year of Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin, and so
That's a
this
good one.
was just it's like 30 seconds here of them, totally different energy. Witkoff going there, and I mean, when
Oh yeah.
Carlson was
Oh
there, he was
gosh.
like, I had meetings with my colleagues. We were teaching Eurociv last year, like math tense as all get out because Tucker Carlson went to Moscow, right? At
Yeah, I saw
all.
no problem with that. That was crazy.
Never mind that he he went to talk to the president of Russia and published it, and so everybody could see what was said, and it was accurately translated according to my colleagues who know Russian.
Why would you not want to talk? Why would you want war instead?
Indeed, right? And this I realized another. So we have through threads of work and suffering and putting the pieces together and meaning. But it was also who could you trust, right? I think there's a lot behind that's what I thought I was going to draw you all into this problem of how do we know which reports to believe?
Yeah.
Right? Do we believe the AI? Do we believe the universities on which side is the good side? And with this one, let's watch the video again. This is the what do you see when you see our what's I should have looked up Witkoff. What is he officially? He's with the State Department, right?
Yes, I think so.
But he's
I,
not
I,
he's
I
not
don't
a
remember.
cabinet secretary. So what is he?
No, he's not at that level.
Right.
He's staff, but I don't remember his title. I'm sorry.
Okay. So he comes into the room, and this is I happened to hear some of a podcast on Rumble. This guy who does a life in this a day in the life of the CEO or CEO. I can't remember what it is. Anyway, his guest was talking about like body language and gestures and how to take control of a room and things like that. And I mean, this is so wild because it's like textbook of what he was describing. Let me start the video again. So here we go. Oops. All right, I have to go back. How do I make it go again? Ah, there. Okay. Okay, so Witkoff comes in. Whoops, I turned it off. I'm going to start over. Okay. I don't know if I don't seem to be able to pause it. It's still playing again. I wanted to be able to pause it because there's these really interesting moments in what. Oh, there I can. Okay, I can. My tech is raw tonight. We're out of practice after last week. Okay, so
I can't even keep plugged in. So
yeah,
okay.
that's true. I'm just fiddling around and can't get my slides in the right order. Okay, so Witkoff comes in. Obviously, cameras are on because otherwise we couldn't see it. So remember, somebody's there with the frame, right? Everybody always remembers that, right? Okay, so he comes in, and it's very like unceremonial. I mean, there's super duper high ceremony in what actually happens, but there's very little like, there's no. This isn't a throne. The like all the stuff we've been reading for writing Act 4, right?
Yeah.
Performance before the king or something like that. He just walks into the room, and walk.
How are you, Mr.
And Witkoff says something first, at least as far as we hear it on the camera. It's like, "How are you, Mr. President?" Right? So he's walking, and he's walking quite swiftly, which I found interesting. It's like he's assertively walking into the room. Here we are into the room, and
President? Fine, just wait.
there that they both come out and they're both extending a hand. It's very much like this. Putin's the president of Russia, right? When we talked about what he was like with Tucker Carlson, it was all this, alpha posturing and stuff.
Oh, right. And the room was dark. It was like a dim
Yeah,
room, and it looked
yeah.
very stark. And foreboding's not the right word. It wasn't foreboding.
It was tense, though. It was totally
It was
tense.
tense. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very tense and very serious. And Tucker did giggle a bit because I think he was nervous. Putin did not. He did not look nervous. He looked very serious. He's very different here.
This is
Both of
totally
them are very
different.
different here.
Yeah.
Totally different vibe.
And in the with Carlson, Putin's sort of sitting there in this, like massively command the chair guy pose. He's got his legs spread, right? So he's sitting
Yeah.
very relaxed, and it's like and in masculine body language that relaxed, the more relaxed you are, the more high status you are. So,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Guys, we do
And the
notice. We're able to
right.
read you. Guess what? We spend our lives watching.
And the more space they take up too,
Right. So
right?
it's the
Like,
man
yeah,
spreading
right.
and very casual. And Tucker was kind of a little twitchy and tight, right?
He was very twitchy.
These guys, right? It's like total, hands out. They're very, and
Yeah.
in this situation, it seemed to me Putin was slightly lower status, which was
Hmm.
fascinating, right? Because so
Really?
watch this. He comes in. They shake hands.
Hmm.
Okay, and I don't know. There's a little. Putin's just grinning, right? He
He,
that was so wild. If you watched him with Carlson last year, he was super duper sober, right? It's like
oh yeah.
war is still happening right now, right? It's not
Well,
like
what I remember when we were talking about that saying was that this is a negotiation.
mm-hmm.
You can tell it's a negotiation. Now, negotiation's over. This new scene right here, they've already made some deals before they became into the ceremonial. We're going to come and sit down at this big table in this big, nice, bright room.
Right. With
So
cameras
something's
on
already
it.
been
Yeah.
right. Something's already been decided. Everybody's relaxed, not just him.
All of them
I thought
are.
everybody
There's
was really relaxed.
surreal, and then he does this. So Putin's really smiling. He looks really happy, and then he does this. They shake their hands, and then Putin makes this weird little gesture, like "Let's sit down." Right? And I'm like,
Let's have some tea. Would you like some tea?
this is and then he goes on, and they're walking together, and he kind of pats him on the shoulder, and I'm like, wow. This is the total energy. It's like you see this. It's like it's not even it's 15 seconds. This entire exchange. It's like this is night and day from the way it was last year.
Yes.
So hopeful. Very very.
Yes.
Please let there be
perfect for Easter week.
yes, this was, but I'm
Yeah.
and what and it is interesting now. Of course, the internet is always out there screeching. We can't trust Trump. He's not doing anything. He's going to get us into war. Chatter, 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 chatter. That's the horsemen of the propaganda, guys.
Yeah.
Constantly, and I'm interested. It's sort of I'm having fun tonight. Thank you for being here, everybody. Because but before we started talking, I was feeling pretty low. I put some happy on to start the video, and that kept me up. But I'm like, when do we get to celebrate, right? It's like we got dinosaur campuses worrying about. Sitting in that session yesterday, academic freedom is under threat. There's more encampments back on campus. The AI is going to suck up all our jobs. And here,
this is why.
And here in a moment, we actually have maybe diplomacy is going to happen, and they go to the table. This is great. It's like, we love this. This is my last point about this.
And they wanted you to see that.
The table.
Right? They wanted you to see something hopeful. This is why when Trump's first day in office, he brought he very ceremoniously brought all the pens and started signing everything in front of the cameras.
Right.
And this is for this executive, and this is for this executive. He wanted the audience, the people at home watching who couldn't be there, to be a part of this. Watch me do this. This is not just theater. This is something that's actually going to be signed as an executive order, and then everybody's going to have to do it. I'm actually doing something. I'm going to let you watch. Similar to what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
The deals have already been made off the camera. Now they're going to let you see on the camera. They're going to let you see afterwards. So you can't see the actual negotiations happening, except for the Tucker one. I do think that was a negotiation, but there was probably some things happening off camera too. But so it's a bit like Trump signing the executive orders in front of the cameras. It's a relaxed,
right. The kind of performance thing. It is definitely clear.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's like academia is not noticing this at all. They don't. What the campus protests are about is like, can we please stop the other war now too, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even. I guess I'm feeling a bit discombobulated because I'm not sure where the energy is right now and everything. This room. This is the most hopeful thing I've seen. That Putin looked so happy. Like, can
Yeah.
we please come to some agreement? And he doesn't he doesn't look gleeful, like, oh goody, I've won.
No, no, that's not it at all.
It's can we come to some agreement now?
Hmm. Or at least I'm talking to people who want to come to an agreement, not people who are, trying to destroy my country
Right.
and take it over and partition it.
Which is what the West has been wanting to do ever since the wall
Yep.
came down.
The
Right?
West has been wanting to do that since 1917, probably.
Well, okay, the funniest thing, I didn't put this in the slide. The funniest thing I saw was what Trump, I guess the Pope's death has derailed some of these performances, but that Trump was going to go to London and tell them that Russia could have the Crimea.
I would like to have watched that.
That's wow, that's like Victorian England, take that, right?
Yes.
Talk
Fly
about,
on
okay,
the
you made
wall
us be
there,
the
man.
empire after World War II, and we have to deal with all of the blame for everything and the responsibility. And yes, we've been baddies. Yes, Hans. We have been the baddies. But to go to London and say, oh yes, and by the way, that charge of the Light Brigade that you did, irrelevant.
Yeah, we're done. It's like,
much.
out.
So, I mean, it's like, okay, at the one hand, the AI, the universities, the Putin arrangement, it's like, so can we go back to, here we back on our, okay, we got, you get to see Trump at the Easter, the slides started themselves over. We're trying to figure out where the horsemen are running, the AI. This is fine, says the dinosaur, the Pope. Where in this, the story does who Francis is come? You've been reading more about this than I have.
Where does it fit into
the I don't know. What are we trying to understand
about his death?
About what story we're in?
What story we're in, and how does he fit into that? Well, I don't say this to be dismissive, but I don't think that the death of the Pope is relevant because I don't think anybody didn't see this coming. He was an old man and he was sick.
Right.
I think his supposed valid election, 12 years ago was a lot more significant. What was going on then? I don't really think his death is relevant. A conclave coming up, is it going to be relevant? That's a different question. I mean, a conclave is always relevant because of what it is.
Right.
Electing a new pope, right?
Well, I guess so.
Wait and see.
In the Vatican seems to me to be caught up in a lot of the same problems the universities are.
What's that?
Nobody trusts us.
Well, nobody's ever trusted the Vatican, at least all Catholics, I think.
Right. So
Yeah.
there's a lot. There's a lot. Okay, this is the through line here. I am glad that I did have one. Is the trust, right? It's like, who are you going to trust? You're going to trust the AI. You're going to trust the universities. You're going to trust that diplomats are going to be able to make their job. You're going to trust the Pope. Who are you going to trust? And of course, I was happy that it was, on Monday we got to just talk about the medieval, because I do that, and I don't talk about popes that much because being a Protestant, being actually a scholar who concentrates more on devotion than on politics, it's hard for me to care in the way that it feels to me like every single guy online who's either Catholic or not Catholic cares.
because you said it right there. It's because it's politics.
Right.
And people like arguing over politics.
Well, they should, because you do. I mean, politics is about arguing, and I'm perfectly happy to let the guys get on with it and not, not. Hildegard stuck herself in some situations because guess what they had during her lifetime? 2 popes at odds with each other, right? Well, the anti-pope and the pope, and it's all the way during Alexander III's papacy. There's the emperor keeps supporting anti-popes, like a series of.
Really? You mean he was looking for a Catholic spring of his time? Was that it?
I guess. But so I tend, taking the long view of things, not to be that impressed with problems, because guess what? We've had them before. Just, I mean, similarly, like with, okay, so one, the universities are a particular feature of like reform of institution problem. The AI is clearly a form of media and tools problem. The diplomacy, well, it's like, hopefully the peace treaty lasts a bit so that people can have some life. Whether or not, the problems of the church right now are the death of the institution, which is what the social galactic conversation seemed to be. The undercurrent of that was because the Kurgan asked Vox Day a question about whether he believed in the church or whether it was eternal and something else, I think, and of course the virgin birth, and therefore they all, half the group got to talk about how stupid it was to think Mary was important. I didn't weigh in on that part.
Okay, I just want to interject here, guys. Good luck explaining to Jesus why his mom shouldn't be important to him. Okay?
Well, and the thing is, it fits with the problem of the church, right? Because it's like whether or not, okay, so how do you know what you know? How do you know who to trust? Add this all up, right? Now I've gotten to my big point, right? We add it all up, and I'm still worrying about my microphone, trying to keep it to my mouth.
Sounds good.
It's hard to sit right. I'm also anxious because like Evita does this really well and professionally, and I feel like I wandered in off the hippie ranch, which I do, right? I am a total hippie.
You are a hippie from New Mexico.
Which should give me other kinds of cred, right? It's like I have no idea how to behave in polite society. So am I a leftist or rightist? No, I'm an int. I forgot where I was. The trust of the institution, and we're worrying about whether we can trust the AI to tell us the truth or just lie to us more. We're worrying about whether the universities will fulfill their function of seeking truth, which they aren't, which they claim they are, because that's why they want the research money, but they've been using it in other ways. We hope that the diplomats are telling us the truth when they say they want to make treaties for peace and not, finagle their way around other kinds of agreements that is more money laundering and lying and gaslighting, right? I mean, talking about, we're in this major moment, I think, thanks to the media. I mean, the fourth horseman with the propaganda and everything, it's like, this is the whole of what we're fraught with. And it is creating a similar kind of situation as the printing press did of authority, which is therefore why, the kinds of debates that people get to online about you should trust the Pope because he was chosen by the Holy Spirit in the conclave of cardinals. Oh no, you can't trust the Pope because everything's been wrong and a lie since Nicaea.
That doesn't sound like something God would do to this church, but okay.
Well, but it's I as a historian, I say, guess what, guys? We're in it, right? On the cross, in it. In the incarnation, in the messiness, in the blood and the gore and the mistakes and the sorrow, and yet we're also in the resurrection.
Right. I mean, and that's the church. It's full of messy people, and we are a mess.
But everybody wants it to find the perfect one, right? They all want to find the Pope.
There's no perfection on earth.
The Pope that doesn't say anything misleading or wrong. Obviously we don't want simony, right? Peter Damian did not like money grubbing clergy.
We don't either.
Right. Well, and I think some people clearly loved Francis a lot. I've always been a bit worried about him, and I'm worrying now whether I've been misled by things that the media wanted us to believe about him, because
they do that all the sorry.
Yes, they do that.
My lip here. They do that all the time, and that's the deviousness of it, because they said a lot of untrue things about previous popes.
Right.
But I think the thing with Francis is some of the things that aren't actually attributed to him. He actually said, my lip is bleeding, sorry. He actually said these things on planes, and he never corrected them. So that was what was telling me that maybe Sorry, the demons are really out tonight for me.
And I know, and I'm getting I'm having to sit differently, so I'm getting all like twitchy and my neck hurts and stuff. We're
Okay, you
fighting
go.
for you guys so that we can find the truth here.
So ridiculous. I look like I've been popped in the lip. Sorry.
It's all incarnational.
Oh my gosh.
You're not an AI. This is proof.
I'm not an AI. Yeah, yeah. AIs don't. This is insane. You talk. I'm going to cover my shame up here.
Well,
Okay?
we're doing as usual. The stream brings truth to you. You know the accidents of what happened at live
I
on
started
stream.
talking about the Pope, and
And
my
you bit your
face
lip.
starts. I said, face starts bleeding, and they're going to go, oh, you know.
Well,
They got her. Oh gosh.
this is I think, you know, our theme thread is coming through. It's like the problem of lying about Trump, the problem of whether the AI lies, the lies that have been told about what's going on with Putin. The universities feel like they're being lied about all the time, and I'm like, well, I have a little firmer. I feel like a little firmer ground in that one of understanding the kind of situation it is. But with the church itself, I did become Catholic on purpose, and I became Catholic during Francis's pontificate. So it's not like I didn't look at the church and go, well, it's, I think he's not really Pope, and therefore I'm not going to become
Well,
Catholic.
this is the thing. You didn't become a Catholic because of who was the Pope, right?
Right.
That's the thing, and nobody should. There was a man who famously became a Catholic during Benedict the XVI's pontificate, who, after he resigned and Francis was declared Pope, he stopped being a Catholic. He was a writer in New York, and I can't remember his name. Somebody else in the chat might remember his name. But I thought, how very sad. It's like, you don't become a Catholic because of any man other than Jesus Christ.
Right.
If you do, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because we're all utter failures, all of us, without Christ. And even with him, we still keep falling down and have to get up. So that's always a bad idea to do that.
Right. Are you okay there?
I am okay. Okay. I now see, because it's gone on for so long, I have to explain to everybody. It has been a very weird week. I've had my second bout of shingles, and it's been on my face, so I look really attractive.
You look beautiful,
And
don't you?
and this last bout
This
has
is
been, and it keeps, sorry. This is so ridiculous.
Hey,
Oh my gosh.
when I'm on the way Avita does her thing, they zeroed in on me, right? And so I have
Yeah.
these glasses that are the one that I bought because I thought online I didn't get to try them on before I bought them. I just needed glasses at all, right? Because I can't see. I keep them on stream because sometimes I want to read stuff, and you guys complained about me taking them on and off, right? But there was also this. I got stabbed in the eye, or right under my
You
eye,
did.
and earlier this week it was a much more alarming bruise. Right?
It was shocking. I
It
saw
was
the pictures.
shocking.
I'm
I
like,
showed
what?
them pictures, and I showed Avita that, right, because I got it at the tournament. It was an accident before we were fencing. It was not during the fencing. It was an accident while we were checking weapons or checking equipment, safety equipment, ironically, right? And Avita says, "Can you come on my stream?" And I'm like, "Well, I need to show you this." And she's like, "Well, okay." And so I said, "Okay, I'll hide it behind the glasses," right? So there were reasons, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the first time this happened, I wore very bright makeup to try to cover it up, and I thought it was over. And then I started talking about Mary, and the devil goes, zzz.
Yep.
So, yeah.
One day on camera, I'm going to get one of my nosebleeds, and we'll share this moment.
No matter how cool or interesting I try to look, crap like this is going to happen to me. So it just keeps me humble, people. That's it.
Well, but it fits our theme, don't you think? Right? It's like this is what I've been reading about Francis in the last few days has been much more reassuring than the things that I had been reading on our the usual diet of internet scrolling that I'm on because of complaints people had about whether or not we encourage the traditional Latin mass like the one I go to at Cantius. Or the degree to which James Martin of the Jesuits, Francis's order, has been influential in the American conversation. I'd read a couple of his books before He
Whose books?
James Martin.
Oh, James Martin. Okay.
Yeah.
What did you think of them?
I enjoyed the books.
What were they about?
Like education and
Okay.
yeah, they were more sort of, intellectual the intellectual culture of the church.
Before he became a darling of Hollywood.
Yes, I think. Right.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
so
well.
the feeling I keep I don't this is the found this picture of all the people in St. Peter's streaming in to see his body.
Mm-hmm.
Um you all know that I said this on a Vita stream too. It's like I spent so much time in the last decade trying to learn enough history so that I feel like I have a full sense of the various sides in the different debates,
Mm-hmm.
particularly of I mean, Israel Palestine. I haven't read in as much depth, but we did the whole stream last year on Candace Owens, and
Yeah.
the way in which the story about what happened to the Jews in the Middle Ages has been framed, and in fact, the way the Jews in the Middle Ages were used by, for example, the Normans in their
Mm-hmm.
conquest. So,
Yes.
that you're constantly finding out over and over and over again that there is another facet, maybe not just another side, right, but another facet to this enormous story that we're in, which is history, which is God's entering into our messiness and our complexity and our embarrassing ability to bleed. Are you still bleeding
On
there? Or you
camera,
just
right?
stopped bleeding on
Or we don't
camera?
want to, right? He was
I
born.
can't
He was
see
born
it.
in a
You're
barn.
you're you're feeling it, and I don't see it, right?
Oh, trust me, if I weren't doing this, it
Okay.
would be a lot scarier. I would look like a vampire.
You'd
That's a
look
different
like the
show.
pictures that they're painting on those tents on campus.
Oh God!
You're a
I
vampire.
swear, people, this is not a protest.
Maybe I mean you're bleeding sympathetically while we're talking about the
I'm,
Pope. Come
I'm
on.
sympathetically bleeding, yes, from the face.
I've lost your
Oh,
focus. I can't
sorry.
save you here.
Nobody can. I mean, look at me. Come on. Sympathetic.
Why the ladies of the Mosaic Ark ran aground on Easter Friday.
See, I am bleeding. I am bleeding for this show. Okay, go ahead.
We'll have to look back on the transcript and figure out what we were talking about.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry, everybody.
It's the okay. So one, and I recognize this is the persistent. I don't think academia was ever pure and not like career oriented and bound to the state. Guess what? It always has been. I mean, it's
Oh, sure.
the whole reason that there's such a thing as the University of Paris is because of the way in which the king grants a charter for it. It's never been not a problem. Institutions are bound. It's like when Jesus says, "My kingdom is not of this world," and then gets killed. Guess what? There may have been a reason for this. He's irritating in that way, right?
He's irritating and he challenges authority, right?
Always.
He
And
contrasts with it.
and then we are supposed somehow to know that Saint Francis is a bad guy, right? Because I've read it on the internet.
That Saint Francis is a bad guy?
Yeah, not Saint Francis. That Pope Francis. Sorry,
Oh,
he's not saint yet. The other Francis. It's interesting. He's the only pope that's taken the name Francis, and he's a Jesuit. I was really
yeah,
puzzled by
that is
that.
interesting.
Right?
I actually thought that was really cool when it first happened, but
Yeah.
now I'm very cynical.
Well, this was to me. It was like a battle between the Benedictines and the Franciscans, and now since I spent the past year working on the Franciscans, I like both of them properly.
Do you like the Franciscans and?
Well, I liked Benedict XVI because he talked about being a monk, right? And he took the name Benedict because he wanted to have a sense of what the way monasticism created European culture. I was all on board for that,
Yes,
right? I liked
me
that
too.
a lot.
Yeah, I understood that immediately when you
Yeah,
picked that name. That was cool.
that was very good. And then I spent this past year or two, studying the Franciscans and their devotion to Our Lady, and am therefore it just sort of Francis, Saint Francis only, ended up Saint Francis rather than heretic Francis because the Pope recognized him, and he recognized the Pope and was obedient to Innocent. Hildegard of Bingen's the same, right? It's like the cool, edgy ones tend to recognize they need some, like me, I'm still at the University of Chicago. It really doesn't help me just to be out in the wild being a crazy lady. And Hildegard, she recognized, and they did this well in the movie, that she's having these visions. They're unlike anything anybody else has ever described. And so she writes to Bernard of Clairvaux and takes advantage of the fact that the Pope's nearby in Trier at a conference, at a synod. And Bernard, she's written to Bernard, ask his advice. He goes to Pope Eugenius, who was his protege, as it were. He's a Cistercian. And Eugenius gives his approval to Hildegard. She wasn't out there bucking authority. She was out there, well, she was, but she was also recognizing that, within the institution, there's a point of being within the institution as well.
What did she do that somebody considered to be heretical or bucking the institution?
Well, the visions themselves were a problem because they are strange, right? And we will do it. We will do an episode on them.
They are pretty strange. I mean, they're interesting, and the artwork
Yeah.
that goes along with them is really strange.
And it's her. It's clearly her designs for the artwork.
Yeah, they were from her descriptions.
Yeah. In the movie, they used some of them as wall paintings, and I was like, wait a minute. This is the one thing that really struck me as wrong in the movie. It's like they build a new monastery, and in the set for them, they use one of her drawings from the book of the Liber Divinorum Operum, and it's like faded, and I'm like, no, it's new.
Yeah, why would it be faded? That's funny. Somebody overlooked that. Yeah,
colored it in.
Yeah, they had real paints and colors back then.
Oh yeah,
bright
very
ones.
vivid, very vivid, and she made sure to color them as color the paintings in the colors she saw. But so and she also, one of the things they show in the movie is she has her nuns dress up as brides with their hair down and with golden crowns and in white dresses. And
during their vows or all the time?
When they're at mass. In the movie, they make it as if they're doing it just for the performance of the play of the virtues. But what this canonist writes to them and says, you're supposed to be wearing your veils. Why do you have your hair down? And Hildegard says, well, it's we're virgins, right? So that rule doesn't apply. She's doing a lot of things that.
Well, it sounds like a secular rule for dress.
No, that's why they're veiled as nuns, right? They're supposed to keep.
Oh no, I mean they're veiled as nuns, yes. But if they were not nuns, when she said, "Well, we're virgins, so we're allowed to keep our hair down," sounds like something she would have said outside of the convent if they weren't nuns.
Yeah, but she grew up in the Hermitage. She didn't really have much experience outside,
which makes it a strange thing to say.
Her letters are great, right? I'm reading her letters and going, on the one hand, you write to Hildegard for advice, and you either get, don't push yourself so hard. She was, because of her convent mother's self-flagellation and so forth, she was a bit more moderate in her bodily practices. So you could get advice from her saying, be sure to eat well. Or she also gets letters from them saying, I've been elected abbot and I'm not sure I can. And she's like, do your job. God wants you. Right? And so
yeah,
it's really delightful having her sense of, on the one hand, she's, comforting and such like that. And on the other time, sometimes she's really not. It's like, particularly the men, they write to her and say, we need help. And she's like, you're not doing your job.
I expect it to be a bit tougher, huh?
Yeah. Do your preaching against the Cathars. Don't stop it.
Yeah, toughen up, Buttercup.
Anyway, which is a nice way to bring us to our last thought for the evening, which was whether women have any business having these conversations in the first place.
Try and stop us.
Well, because I was reminded in the midst of the social galactic conversation about whether or not the Council of Nicaea was, inspired in some way, and nobody recognized that I was trying to make a historical argument, even though I kept trying to, I want them to ask questions. I'm used to class, right? My students get when I'm trying to set them up to think. Yes, guys. At what point are you going to decide? Sorry, I have a sore throat. I'm glad we made it through most of this stream, right? You're bleeding.
Yes,
I have
very,
cough
very little
drop
blood. Yes, that's what we'll say at the top of the show. We made it through the stream with very little blood.
and no
So
coughing
please
yet,
join
right?
us.
Yes, we haven't. Here we are. So here the three Marys have come to the tomb, and this is Avita also asked me about this. This is, like I said, this is the footnote to the stream I did with Avita. One of the things she was curious about was whether there were plays associated with Easter, and this is it. Here it is. I'm showing you it right now. I didn't know she was going to ask me about this, because otherwise I would have given her this image. This is from the 10th century antiphonor for St. Gall, the Hartker antiphonor, and it is showing what we think is one of the earliest liturgical plays, which is actually just a little dialogue exchange where the angel asks, who are you seeking in the sepulcher? And the three Marys are saying, we seek him who was crucified, and he says he's not here, right? So that being, it's like we think, like Hildegard was putting on her plays with the nuns and the play of the virtues, which was, we should read that. That would be really fun, because it's great. And in the movie, her confidant and scribe Volmar gets to play the devil, and the actor really clearly enjoyed getting to play Volmar playing the devil.
That's fun.
It was really good. It's very sweet. But this exchange, the women are the first to the tomb. The women are the first witnesses to the resurrection.
That's right.
You want the empty
they're
tomb.
They're the first to proclaim it. Yeah.
They're the first there. Now, in the Gospel of Mark, and this is, guys, if you're arguing about like exactly how do we define the Trinity, we'll do a whole stream on Hildegard to tell you how you've gotten it wrong again, even though she obviously accepts the Nicene Constantinopolitan Creed. But how do we know anything about the Trinity at all? How do we know anything about the Trinity? Oh, we're going to argue about whether or not they formulated it correctly at Nicaea? Wrong. How do we know anything whatsoever about the Trinity? Irritating music. Do, 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 do. Because of the incarnation. And Hildegard is really, really good on this point, saying that in their series of visions, first she shows you the Redeemer, his entry into the world, his suffering and redemption of the creation, and then you can see the Trinity. And I've published an article on this, like you can read if you want to go deep dive into the scholarship problem level. And Hildegard's great at showing this. The reason you know anything whatsoever about God the Father and the Holy Spirit is because the incarnation makes it visible to us in some way, right? It's the incarnation that shows us the Trinity, which is why the Council of Nicaea has to try to figure out how to formulate it, and the Council of Constantinople tries to figure out how to formulate it again. So it's only something we have through God's self-revelation, obviously. And therefore it's like, as Christians, that's what we recognize. This is Cantius, and this is the revelation, and this is the resurrection. That what we've celebrated at Easter is, not just the conquering of death and the pain of our debt, but the self-revelation of God in the resurrection. I do get feisty and Hildegardian at this point, right? It's like, good grief, stop being so dumb. and then you have to remember, well, we're all dumb.
Yes. We are.
We might as well need bunny ears, right? Because this is a huge mystery to try to get your head around. We're constantly trying to show it through the liturgy. We can barely agree on what's going on in history right now.
True.
2,000 years
Everyone.
ago, what actually exactly happened at the tomb? Well, we have the report of the women.
Yep.
We only know that the angel was there to say he is risen because they told the men.
That's right.
I love
And good thing they
I love
did.
reminding people of that, right? Women shouldn't talk, okay?
Yeah.
He is
Women
risen.
shouldn't preach. Yeah. Women shouldn't preach in church. That doesn't mean women shouldn't talk or preach the risen Christ everywhere else they go. We all should.
Mary Magdalene was the first to do so.
That's right.
She's and saying in Mark, the women are too afraid to say anything. But then Jesus appears to her, to Mary Magdalene, and then she talks about it. In the other gospels, the women go and tell the men, right? So there's it's like whether the men are listening depends on the evangelist, right? But Hildegard went and preached, and she had all the men in. I mean, she had some trouble with her founding abbot Kuno, but she has all these men from all over Germany writing to her for advice. And she goes on a preaching tour, and they write to her. That my favorite letter in the collection that we looked at was the canons of Cologne write to her and say, "Can you please send us a copy of the sermon that you gave while you were here?" And she writes back, and it's like, "You're not doing your job." It's not only did like that she came there, she preached to them, and then they wrote later saying, "Can we have a copy, please?"
Yeah. Not write it down the first time.
Well, I mean, it's very funny and delightful, and saying, okay, so the God showed himself through the things that he showed her. She's a saint, right? We recognize Hildegard as one of the voices of the church. Likewise, Catherine of Siena, and there's two others that are doctors of the church that are women.
Yeah. It's a Teresa of
Avila, yeah, and Teresa of Lisieux.
Yeah.
Right. So there we are. That's our meditation.
Women rule and boys drool. No, sorry. I can scratch that.
Okay, we got Rogue Wave saying, what percentage of first and second century church was women? I wonder. There's so my credentials, right? I do have proper credentials, and not just like I've got the credentials from the universities, but I've studied this stuff when we ask these questions. And I did in my New Testament courses as an undergraduate, one of my papers that, made Professor Kelber interested in the question of the women was, something you're paying attention to where the women are. They show up in very interesting places to point to things. And we know from Acts that they're, women who are founding the early churches, like the house churches where people are meeting. So church just means ecclesia. It's a group, right? It means the group, right? So the group, the Pope is the head of the group. Got it? Right. And, it makes it sound, and Mary is at Pentecost, among with the apostles in the upper room when the Spirit descends. Right. So it's like the group. And women belong to that. Hello, Daydreamer. Hello, ladies. Tradition. Yes, tradition. There are sure a lot of women virginity saints in the canon of the Mass. Yes, I mean and I mean Catherine, my favorite. Everybody, Catherine of Alexandria is a great one because, of course, she stands up and argues philosophy better than any of the men can. And her wheel is not because she gets broken on the wheel, because it bursts when she prays. Right? They behead her later. Rogue Wave saying the bride, the church, must follow her Lord in her own passion. Many will flee, deny, betray. The remnant will be mocked. That's yes. Right, we model we're mirroring Christ. Christ does not take away suffering. He transforms, redeems it to make it the means for our salvation. Going back to what the universities should be doing, yes, they should return to Christ in their search for truth. And instead of mocking those of us who are Christians who believe in the truth, maybe talk to us.
Yeah. Yeah, talk to us, not at us,
right,
or about us. To us.
Talk to us, and recognize. I mean, this is entirely my argument in favor of history, right? my discipline, that because God became incarnate in time, we study, we know him through time. So it's a historical question. It's always a historical question. If you want to know what's, the problem for the church is acting in time through all of the time. It's a much more of a garden metaphor than a here let's this perfect idol that we're going to worship because it got exactly right that moment. It has weeds and trees and it grows and it has seasons and the women get to talk every so often. Anyway, last thoughts? Any last thoughts?
No. Nope, I think we've covered it. I'm trying not to talk too much.
And I got a cough drop in because the sore throat that was creeping up on me is telling me that I really should stop talking. But I want to tell you guys about Jesus.
You said that very funny.
That was a cough drop. I want to tell you guys about Jesus. Here, let's hear us about Jesus. He is risen. He is risen. He is risen. Hear the ladies. We were there. We saw the empty tomb. Now I feel happy again.
Good.
Okay. Well, we will be back next week. We have another break coming up. And then look forward to, we're going to have a special guest talking about his thriller set in Hollywood. So yes. We've been reading it. It's
so
great.
good.
It's great. And I think, so in our Easter season, we made it through to the other side here. We should let us know in the comments or in your exchanges with us who you would like to see as guests, because once I'm finished with term, it becomes a little more possible again to have some more visitors on. So that'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Like, subscribe, sign up for our newsletter. Hallelujah, he is risen. Thank you for joining us. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.